Well, hello, intrepid traveler. You have entered the lair of the Mind Sculptors. And while I'm aware that this is sort of thematically not exactly a Back to the Future style emplacement, Callahan had no idea I was going with this angle.
I didn't know you were going with the angle, but I'm okay with it. I'm not going to complain.
Sit down, have yourself a drink. I'm partaking in a Celsius, which is known as the White Girl's Monster.
I'm drinking water.
Well, I mean, an adventurer like yourself, of course, you would need to be rehydrated after risking your life on the road.
I have been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate, so I guess this does make some sense.
I have been too cheap to purchase such a game.
Too cheap. Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on a second. There's somebody at the door.
Oh, is this not a bit? Hey, what's up, YouTube audience? Now it's just the two of us. Let's talk about not doing drugs. Sometimes I can't do this by myself. I'm so sorry. Sometimes you're at a Magic Con, and you're sitting there, and a cool member of a podcast or maybe a YouTube channel walks up to you with a marijuana cigarette. And it's at those times that you got to look deep inside yourself and say, no, I know where I stand. And it's by the side of sobriety and good faith in humanity. So, don't do drugs, kids. Now, if there's any adults watching, feel free to do as many drugs as you can do responsibly. And
Great Scott, Ian!
Jesus Christ. Oh, no.
We gotta go back to the future. It's your kids, Ian. It's your kids. We gotta go save them.
Wait, my cats?
It's your kids.
Did you hear any of my monologue?
Oh, I very much so did. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
cool,
great.
Cool.
For our Spotify listening audience, you just missed me running away to get the door and coming back dressed like Doc Brown from the end of Back to the Future.
Also, if this is for the YouTube audience, once again, fuck the Spotify audience. I'm so sorry you have to deal with their shit. The fact that we had to take time out of our podcast here that you want to watch in video form, and you missed, or that they missed like a really good joke that Cal did where they came back looking like Christopher Lloyd, and that was fucking sick. So fuck those Spotify nerds.
I need you to know, I spent like a dumb amount of time putting tinfoil around these sunglasses.
Yeah.
For like a 10-second bit.
Yeah, for the people at home, Cal will often text me and be like, hey, I did a silly thing. And I'll just be like, oh no. And then I won't like remember because they text me this once a week.
There's sometimes it's one of those things where, well, I would say I do it more than once a week, actually. Where I'm just like, Ian, I did a thing.
Coming to me like a child who has spilled something important.
Dad.
Yeah, literally.
But yes, we're doing part 2 of Hidden Gems of cEDH.
Hell yeah.
People really liked it, and I didn't get to do my Doc Brown. So we're doing that.
Nice.
So before we get into that, though, to remind people, we talked about this last week. It's free. Just do it, okay? YouTube audience, it's not hard. All you have to do is hit like, hit subscribe. It costs you nothing. All it does costs you literally nothing.
Literally.
If you don't want to turn on notifications, it's fine. I would like it if you turned on notifications, but
no, we'd like it. It'd be cool. It would be
great. Can I just point out the way I have my hair right now makes me look like I'm very old.
You're definitely.
I have a vibe at the moment.
You're giving off Christopher Lloyd energy. You've really committed to the bit, and that's lovely.
I'm very committed to the bit. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button if you really want to.
And you might be sitting there and being like, I don't know, did the notification button really deserve to be physically struck at this moment? I want you to hit it. Hit it.
And remember that if you don't hit that, you would miss such amazing content like me running in dressed like Christopher Lloyd from the end of Back to the Future. So also, if you're, one of those Spotify listeners, I want you to forget, like we said last week, forget what we just said to YouTube. None of that matters. Yeah. Just leave. Can you even rate on Spotify? Is actually a question.
No, this is my point. They're the fucking worst. They can't help us at all. They listen for free. What are you doing, Spotify? Get on Patreon. Sorry, it's fine.
And meanwhile, Apple Podcasts is out there. People are dropping ratings left and right. It's great. This is Apple Bros, dude. You guys were all shitting on Apple in the comments last week, and man, I tell you, Apple pays the bills, baby.
I hate that sentence.
Apple pays the bills, baby. And if you're a Google Podcast listener like Ian, well, why? We get it. You're different. I'm
subscribed to the machine Android.
Yeah, it's fine. I've got my iPhone. I'm happy with it. Yeah, so let's talk about some old commanders, shall we? We got a few. We've got 17 here. We're probably not going to go as in deep on some of these. But the first one we will talk about is Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. You all know it. You all hate it. It's the 2/2 bird cleric that costs 3 generic and a white, and has flying, and says whenever you cast a historic spell, which are artifacts, legendaries, or sagas, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, Ian, traditionally, this is, everybody is kind of aware of Teshar KCI.
80% win rate, baby.
It has a surprisingly good win rate.
For those who are not familiar with why I'm being sassy about that, there was a period of time when the cEDH metagame project was self-reported, and the Teshar players who were like in a very specific meta would all report their Teshar games, and it had like an 85% win rate. And people were like, well, I mean, statistically speaking, Teshar is the best deck in the format right now, which it obviously was not. So that's my explanation for the insider baseball comedy there. I know Cal and I are boomers at this point in the world of cEDH, but
listen, I know some people don't like the inside jokes, so we're trying to give you guys context. So we're not doing inside jokes.
Yeah. Oh fuck! Sorry, cat just fucking clawed my leg.
Miri,
she loves being here while I'm doing podcasts.
So overall thoughts on Teshar. I feel so mid on Teshar, and kind of always have. Like
exceptionally mid. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's like I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna get some Teshar apologists in our comments that are gonna be like, oh no, it's great.
Teshar is cool. Like, it's explosive. It does the thing that it wants to do, right? And it's one of those decks. It's like, I'm glad it exists in the format. It's unique. It does the thing that mono white does not normally do, right? It's like a fast combo deck in white. And because of that, like, I'm glad it exists, but I don't think anything has changed for me to like the deck anymore. If anything, I have less reason to play it now because they made Moira and Teshar, which is kind of like better Teshar. Unfortunately, it's a little more expensive, but the abilities kind of cracked.
I also just think that generally, if I was going to play a fast mono white deck, I think that I would generally choose to play Owl instead, because
I like Teshar better than Owl in the speed sense, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's I think Teshar is faster technically, but I think Owl is just more consistently good, if that makes sense. It's not as swingy as Teshar can be.
I don't know why Miri has decided it is only during the Mind Sculptors that she does this.
Hey, Miri, chill.
No,
can you hear me? Are you being a good little cat? My dog is looking at me like, are you talking to me?
Yeah. Miri loves Teshar. That's what's happening.
Miri's a big fan of Teshar. Well, cats like birds. There you go. Yeah, that's the reason.
True. She's like, the interaction with Lotus Petal.
I chose Lotus.
Yep. No, I mean, it's a cool deck. It once again attacks the format at a unique access. It loses to Rule of Law and Collector Roof and Rest in Peace and Grafdigger's Cage and too many cards. So sorry, Teshar.
Yeah. It loses to too many cards to be in mono white, honestly, is kind of the issue. So
this is another one that for me is like a model 5, right? Like I'll see it across the table and be like, that is a cEDH deck for sure. And then be like, oh, I'm not expecting to lose to it.
But you can if you are not like it's one of it. This is something we've talked about on the podcast before, and not to get too deep into it, but like the whole, you have to respect everything that you sit down at a table with, because otherwise you're just gonna fucking lose to it.
Yep, agreed.
So I'm gonna give it a solid 4. I don't know that I give it quite a 5. I think that mono white, this type of stuff is sketchy at best, but I also it's helped by the fact that I think KCI combos are really fun and cool.
KCI is rad as fuck, and it's the card that I try and break in cEDH maybe every 2 minutes. Just it sucks that like it inherently isn't fast enough to work on the Rogsai axis, right? Of just speed, right? And therefore it needs to play stacks pieces, but the stacks pieces that you want to play shut down KCI, right? So it's weird.
Right.
If there was redundancy for KCI, it'd be a very different story.
Yeah. That's kind of always the issue with that stuff, right? Is that you just kind of run into the redundancy issue. Next commander is Arcum Dagsson. We briefly mentioned this last week, but Arcum, if you're not familiar, is a 2/2 human artificer that costs 3 generic and a blue, and it has the ability to tap and target artifact creature's controller sacrifices it. That player may search their library for a non-creature artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This used to be a thing when Engine was around. Paradox Engine. Pour one out for the homies. But and then it kind of died off, and then I saw some people kind of working on it a little bit after the fact, but like I think it's a cool card. I think that I don't know what I'm supposed to do with like it being in mono blue, if that makes sense. I don't know
how I feel about that part of it being the problem. The biggest issue I see with it is like of just how commander reliant the actual strategy is, right? The win is very clunky. It's like Sisay in the fact that like it's all there in the command zone, but you don't have 5 colors worth of removal to like deal with, right? On the other hand, I did lose a finals match because I didn't counter an Ornithopter, so like there's there's stuff like that.
That's
you know what I mean? Like
I don't like that.
That's a pretty cool win in Arcum's favor, right? It's like I did not counter an Ornithopter, and therefore we lost the game.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I think the biggest issue, honestly, is the fact that like you have to wait. Like, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I think the real issue is that you have to wait a turn.
Yes and no. I see your point, but
yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with like Oswald in my mind, where like Oswald's issue
is the card's way better than Oswald.
Yes, it's much better than Oswald, but it I think Oswald would be so much better if it could do something the turn it came down.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into that conversation, but I think Oswald's one of the most overhyped and terrible commanders of all time. Because it reads like a good card and is not. Like,
I have to play all of these mana or all of these artifacts that literally don't do anything but chain into the one that I want.
Yeah.
Did I describe it correctly?
Yeah, that and like paying 1 white. Seriously, 1 white. They couldn't have made it a colorless. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. But Arcum doesn't have to do that. It just has to tap. In a world where Bowmasters is like kind of wrecking Najeela's day, is Arcum gonna, like, I think Arcum would struggle based on that, right? Like,
I think if you're the Arcum player, you're probably creating scenarios in which you're either following like the idea that you have your turn 1 Trinisphere backed up by a Force of Will is kind of the idea of like where the deck goes, right? For me, followed by like your turn 2 Arcum, right? Or you're waiting till you have a Lightning Greaves to play your Arcum, activate it. You're not drawing extra cards. You're just playing your Arcum and having it ready to go. Even if you don't activate it that turn, getting it down, getting it protected is the thing to do, right? So I don't know. I think the deck has legs. I could see it stealing a tournament. The thing is, I think it's very easy to be like, oh, I don't really get what this deck does and kind of ignore it, right? I don't think it's like that attractive to people. To be honest, it's a deck that I think I have a disproportionate amount of respect for because of how I've seen it used, right? But I don't know. I like the card a lot. I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's quite powerful.
Yeah. So I play it in the 99 of like some casual decks.
Yeah.
That's usually what I do with it. But no, I mean, I think it's really cool. I really, like, in my experience, I just never saw it after Paradox Engine got banned.
Yeah.
So that's always been my experience with it. Next card. Whoa. Do we have a runaway cat?
Yeah, she was trying to eat flowers.
God damn it, Miri.
Apologies. Meanwhile, her brother's being a tiny little angel. Just like,
hey, Athena, stop biting your paws. We need to get. Aww. Sorry, our YouTube audience just got nauseous.
Welcome to the roller coaster cast. Whatever. I like my cat.
We're just here to talk about Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
Not even real roller coasters, but Roller Coaster Tycoon. We're the roller coaster
specifically Tycoon. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I thought maybe the podcast itself had branched out, but no, this is
no. It's specifically
Roller Coaster Tycoon 2.
Yeah.
Understood.
Oh, that's amazing. Next commander that we're talking about is Sidisi. Not the one we talked about last week, but a different one from a different timeline. Sidisi Undead Vizier is a 4/6 zombie Naga that costs 3 generic and 2 black. Has Death Touch and Exploit, which is when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. When Sidisi exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This used to be a very fast deck back in the day. If people remember the Fishbowl deck, which it was a storm deck that won with Aetherflux Reservoir. As far as where it sits these days, I mean, mono black is weird. What are your thoughts on it, Ian?
If I'm being honest, I don't really see anything that it's gotten that makes it any better. It's just like, hey, you want a demonic tutor in the command zone for 5 mana? Sure.
Right.
Black has like Sheldred now, which I guess is like a cool way to win, but like, I don't know. I don't think this does anything better than the other mono black options we have, mainly Carrick, right? And yeah, I mean, it's like really cool to have a tutor in the command zone, but then also like people are aware that you have just a demonic tutor in the command zone, right? So they're never going to treat you as like down and out because you can always tutor for an answer.
Right.
It's just it's very interesting. I don't really see any upside to it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. My biggest thing, I miss the old fishbowl Nas days.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the glory days, so it were.
Yeah, I think this is definitely much more under like a nostalgia card than it is has potential nowadays kind of card.
Yeah. This is the we went back in time, and this is the Johnny Be Good of the set. There we go.
The cultural appropriation of the set.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
Implying that a white man wrote Johnny Be Good. Also, by the way, the entire time I've been doing all of this, like Back to the Future, like setup stuff for all this, cannot stop thinking about John Mulaney's Back to the Future bit.
Of course. Yeah.
So the entire time I just have that in the back of my head.
What if? Who can insert the clips?
Oh, so you're calling it? Oh, that's great. So you're going to call it Back to the Past? Oh, well, I don't even want to say what I was going to say. Well, what we're going to say? Well, we thought we call it Back to the Future, but they're going to the past. Yeah. Yeah. So Sidisi, I'll give it a 2 because of the nostalgia.
Yeah, this is a 1 for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. You get the pity 2 for me. You'll never be wrong, Sai. Speaking of something that'll never be wrong, Sai. Next card on our list is
my lady
Zada Hedron Grinder. It's a
hell yeah
3/3 legendary goblin ally that costs 3 generic and a red, and says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Zada, copy that spell for each other creature you control that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. I fucking love this deck so much.
I love this deck too. Yep.
I adore it. It's so dumb, and I love it so much.
This is the definition of like a silly, like you know how every time they do those crazy montages, you hear the Benny Hill song in the background. Like, yeah. That's what this deck is for me, 100%. Every time they print a new efficient red creature, every time they print a new red pump cantrip, I'm just like, yo, is that good again? And then it's not, but I still think about it.
I think about it every day. It's again like the Roman Empire thing. This is my
sure. Zada Hedron Grinder is my Roman Empire for sure.
Quick, I gotta text Lua and ask her to ask you how often you think about Zada Hedron Grinder. Oh my goodness. I like Zada a lot. It's one of those things where it just like has a lot of text on it that is good, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It feels like one of those cards where it's gonna eventually be an oops, we made something really stupid and now the card's really good. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it's that away.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because listen, I have all of these 0-drop kobolds sitting in my collection that I got to do something with, right?
Same. I literally have every single one, especially because I was thinking about making Turbo Winota years back, right? Where you just like all the 0-drops. Yeah, I just like it's so silly because you're just like, oh, 0-drop, 0-drop, Overmaster, and then
expedite draw 10 cards.
Yeah, expedite draw 10. Hee. That's it. That's the whole deck. It's very silly. The problem is like this is the real issue with it, right? Is like when you get the engine online, it's actually kind of insane. The issue is that you need early Zada, early Token Maker, and a cantrip in your opener.
Yep.
That's not an easy ask.
Especially in red too. Like, and red doesn't have great tutors.
No, it does not have much of any tutors.
At least it gets breach though now.
It do got breach. It got plenty of upgrades over the past few years. It got Jewel Lotus, it got breach, it got Jessica's Will, right? Like all of these things where you're like, well, it's gotta be good now. And then much like the Roman Empire, think about it, but it is still gone.
Gone like Frank Sinatra.
Oh my god.
Like Elvis. I start singing Switchfoot.
Look, here's my hot take, right?
Okay.
If you confidently walk into a tournament with a Zada, you're rocking a 10 out of my books. If you can say with confidence, I'm ready to play this deck, hell yeah, good for you. Realistically, you are not doing that. So that sucks.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I really think a lot of the old Zada builds used to probably be a little land heavy.
Yes.
So maybe we need some of our turbo aficionados.
Some turbo eyes on it.
Yeah. Zane, come build Zada.
Quick, I'm going to DM him real quick. Hey, Zane, I know you're in Dubai. So I'm going to give it like a 5 personally.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, it does a thing that is extraordinarily strong.
Yeah.
But is it going to do it every game? Probably not. So I think that 5 is reasonable. You got to respect it. It's kind of hard to kill too. It's a 3/3, and in this format, a 3/3 kind of hangs around.
I give it definitely like a 3.
Okay.
Like I love her. She's great. It's probably not happening.
Yeah. Listen, I built a SBT turbo dredge deck. Don't make me build a Zada deck.
I would love for you to spend your time on Zada and not Sidisi Brutai and Cal. I would actually exactly love that.
But I can play Hogak in the 99.
Oh my god, you're a Hogak. Next.
Next card is one of the most classic mono green decks out there, and we got a lot of requests specifically about this card, and that is Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. It is a 2/3 human rogue bard. I know that it only says rogue on the card, but it has been errated to include bard. And it costs 2 generic and a green. Has the ability for 2 generic and a green to tap, put a verse counter on Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. Search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of verse counters on Yisan, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So this is like, I feel like everybody's lost to this deck like once, right?
I'm not going to lie. It's really hard for me to evaluate Yisan because Yisan has spent too much time in my POV. Like I just it's my fucking best friend from Massachusetts only played this deck for years. I learned the format from Shaper, who then would talk to my best friend from Massachusetts about Yisan every 2 fucking minutes. And I was just like, there was my first 2+ years of this format were flooded with this mono green bastard. Like I ordered hundreds of dollars from cards from fucking card market, and of course my friend was like, I need a foil German Yisan, right? So like this card has taken up too much of my mental space already. So I am aware of every upside and every downside of Yisan. I'm aware of all the new tech. I know. It's great. It's the best parasite of all parasitic decks, truly. And I don't mean that to be a bitch. Like, I mean, it's like parasitic decks are a real archetype, right? It has been like in our format since the beginning because of the multiplayer nature, right? Parasitic deck will always latch on to a certain environment. The Yisan environment is not the current metagame, right? Yisan actually just left the point of view, I think, where it was thriving, right? Because for a bit, right, the metagame was very much dominated by Rule of Law, dominated by Winota style decks, right? And this is one of the only decks that could keep up with Winota as far as Rule of Law advantage engines. When Blood Pod was a thing, Yisan dominated the format. When Winota was a thing, Yisan was actually coming in, putting up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where Yisan was like one of the better decks in the format.
Yes. Correct. Difficult to play correctly.
Yes.
But man, the amount of times I have come back from an insurmountable Yisan board state by resolving a Cyclonic Rift, and they're like, "No shit!" Like, it's just Yisan is a deck with a lot of potential. Ashaya made the deck a lot better. It allows you to be Cyclonic Rift proof, right? Like, but the thing is, people are playing more creature removal than they ever have historically. People are playing more effects like Curse Totem nowadays, and they're playing their dress downs, and people are talking about fucking humility mid range again. And
we just saw a list from Justice in our Discord where they were doing a first sliver humility food chain list.
Yeah, that's been a thing that Chaos has been preaching for a long time.
See, I didn't even know about it, but the fact that you can still do all your combos with the humility out, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of neat.
Yeah. First Sliver is unironically one of the best humility decks in the format, which is very funny to me.
Yeah.
But that all being said, right? Let's call it what it is. Humility is, doing fine, right? But Yisan is going to be one of those decks that is really good at attacking certain formats.
Right.
It is probably in the worst place it could be right now. If I'm being honest, like when people are going a little bit faster, when the mid range decks are pressing their advantage, like what the fuck is a Yisan going to do against Tivit? Right, like there's been never this many main decked Grafdigger's Cages and Containment Priests and just Cursed Totems and Toxic Deluge. Like Yisan is not going to thrive in this environment.
Yep.
And if it does, it means that the people who are playing these responsible decks are playing them so badly.
Yeah, I agree.
Truly. So yeah, sorry, Yisan. Your time has come and gone.
I do think, as far as like a card in the 99, there are some decks where this is just a banger in the 99.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I mean, if you're playing like I hate to bring up the infamous Sacred Guide, right? But like activation 1, get Sacred Guide, untap, get Oracle, activate Sacred Guide is like a real way to win the game without casting a single spell, right?
Yeah.
Now, do I think that that's a way that people should be playing Magic? Maybe not. Maybe we don't play Sacred Guide, but
No, it's fine. It's just Soul Tie with one white card.
Yeah, it's not like white's one of the best colors in the format right now.
No, white's not good. Yeah, I give it. This is another 5 for me. I think it's fine. I think that if you don't respect it, it will win games. Yeah. And if you respect it the correct amount, it will just sit there and kind of be like, well, that was cool.
I'm going to give it a 4 for now because I think that's how I would have felt about it a little while ago. But right now, I think it's just an even worse spot. Like please don't bring Yisan. Like, please.
Yeah. The thing is I built that. What was it? I built that. What's the elemental lady? The mono green deck. I can't remember.
Titania deck, yeah,
Titania. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting and like different. And like I will give it that if you are really tired of playing if you don't play these types of decks very often, if you want a breath of fresh air, it is very much a good breath of fresh air because it is very much different from what you are used to playing, which is something that I really appreciate about it.
Yeah. Or you could play Sisay.
You could play Sisay. Can't argue with that. Let's look at our next card on the list, which is Taigam, Ojutai Master. It is a 3/4 human monk that costs 2 generic and a white and blue that says instant sorcery and dragon spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. And whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell from your hand, if Taigam attacked this turn, that spell gains rebound. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know about you, Callahan, but I'm living in 2023 in Rogside format. We don't even use counter spells anymore. So Taigam's just a blank little note of text here. 4 mana for your commander. That's Beseech the Queen, man, or Beseech the Mirror. Fuck. It's fine. Joke still landed.
Did it though? But yeah, I mean, Rogside is just too fast. Rogside is down to 24 lands. What are you supposed to do if you're playing Taigam? You can't keep up with that.
You play Taigam in a shell and you copy your ad nauseum with it. Done.
I actually don't hate this card. I
have to be really convinced with Taigam. If I'm being honest, I think the deck is I don't know. I don't see what's exceptional about it. I think a lot of people have talked about it historically. But I'm
so
curious.
we talked about this is something that Morgan, Spleenface, and I have talked about a good deal, and it kind of correlates into like what we just talked about, where Yisan was really good in that rule of law meta, and Taigam wasn't, because Taigam needs to be casting spells. It's secretly like sort of a storm deck almost. Like not quite, but it wants to cast spells. I think that playing a blue-white, if you want to play just a straight up blue-white control deck that wins with turns, this definitely is not a bad way of going about it. The issue I will always have is that every time I try to build this and I think about that prospect, right, I am immediately met with well, you could just play Tivit and do exactly that and then have access to black. You know what I mean? Like that's like, as somebody who is a dedicated Azorius control player, I love this card a lot. It's one of my pet cards. I own like every version of this card. Yeah. The issue is that this is your Grand Arbiter for sure. Yeah, this is very much my Grand Arbiter. Like it's one of those things where it's like I want it to work really badly. It has a lot of upsides, but it's just like the angle that it ends up doing stuff on, I can just do that angle in an extra color better. Sure. I think this is like, I'm going to take your argument one step further and say this might be the worst possible time to play this deck. Okay. So I agree that we are no longer, you little shithead. This cat keeps taking our sponge out of our sink. I'm going to kick his ass. Oh my gosh. Gigataxius. Hi, Athena. See, Athena's just sitting over in her little corner that she loves and being a quiet dog. You're not very quiet usually. You're usually really loud. Do you want to come here? You want to come here? Say, come here. Come here, good girl. Oh, say hi. Say hi to the camera, prisoner. No, you say hi to the You are a very bad kitty. I brought in Athena. Okay. I'm sorry for disrupting the podcast, Mind Sculptors audience. Get out of here. Meanwhile, Athena's being cute as hell. God damn it. Yeah, good girl. Anyways, Taigam, yes, is probably the worst place it's ever been, because right now, and I noticed this when I was playing Atali, right? We are in the middle of Rhystic Study summer, right? Like Mardu summer was a joke. This is Rhystic Study summer / fall. This is the year 2023 is the year of the study, I think. The year of our Lord, the study. The year of our Lord, Rhystic Study. It's just, it is never been a more punishing time. People are just mulling for study, locking one down, and passing the turn. They're doing it with Italian, they're doing it with the One Ring, they're doing it with Study and Rhystic, and just every deck that wants to cast multiple spells is getting punished so freaking hard right now if it's not winning on turn 2. Like it is, because just every time you want to like get your value engines online, it needs to be a Sisay, it needs to be a Kinnan, you know what I mean? You need to be able to play without casting spells, or you need to be able to cast a bunch of spells and just win right away, right? You need to be able to not get punished for feeding a Rhystic Study. And I think Taigam is one of those decks that just feeds a study, doesn't actually put in a W, and then just gets clowned on. Yeah. I think that's fair. I will say the win attempts are a little easier because of the uncounterability aspect of it. That is true. But people will just do this thing called remove your commander. Which kind of sucks. I'm going to give it a 3 personally. I love the card. I want to give it more. But it's just like I don't see why I would not just play Tivit or Narset or insert 3 color turns deck here. It's really how I feel about it.
It's getting a 2 for me for all of the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah. Next card was by popular demand. Grenzo Dungeon Warden is a 2/2 Goblin Rogue that costs X generic in a black and a red. And it says Grenzo enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it and has an activated ability that costs 2 generic. Put the bottom card of your library into your graveyard. If it's a creature card with power less than or equal to Grenzo's power, put it onto the battlefield. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no. That's how I feel about it.
No, I'm supposed to be the person who comments on Grenzo.
This is listen, I got nothing for Grenzo. It's literally, listen, babe, there are so many good black red decks out there at this point that you could play. Hell, if you really want to play something wild, play Rog Tevish. It's not a good deck, but you could play that.
Yeah.
Grenzo is like imagine we just got done talking about fucking variants not that long ago. Imagine the most variance heavy deck I could imagine.
Is that what you're trying to do with this deck? I don't think you're trying to plant and stick, right? Like
I don't know. Yeah, you're probably just trying to like, do the thing. But also I just I don't know. I hate this.
I'm going to the outdated section of the cEDH deck list database and seeing how many of these Grenzo decks are like active right now.
They're all doomsday lists, right? Like
yeah. Okay, so this one hasn't been changed in a year. This one's 6 months ago. This one's 9 months ago. Okay. This one's 10 days ago.
Oh.
Okay. So let's see what this. Okay, it's got underscore goblin. Okay, it's got brood lord. I'm confused. Roll Gorger lines. Okay. So I feel like this deck has changed some. Maybe is my general impression. There's no Kiki even in this deck,
right?
Which is not how the deck used to be,
right?
Grenzo's powerless, right?
Power less than or equal to Grenzo's power.
How did they used to win with Kiki?
Well, you would Kiki's a 2/2.
Yeah.
So you just Grenzo for 3. That makes Grenzo a 3/3.
Oh, you Grenzo for 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you you Grenzo for 1 and it comes in with an additional counter because it's a base 2/2.
Well, yeah, I mean Grenzo for 3 power. Right,
yeah.
Right.
So you just Grenzo for 3 and you get it. So it's like there's that. The issue is that your it really just comes down to the fact that you have to tutor from the bottom of your library.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Yeah, how do you cheat with the deck?
Is my doomsday lines.
Yeah.
Why? I don't get it. I don't see it. No, thank you.
I'm down for Rakdos beep beep turbo, right? But like this just seems like Rakdos beep beep turbo with a bunch of unnecessary additions. Like it's nice that it's an infinite mana outlet for Dockside, I guess, but
just play Prosper.
Yeah.
Or play
like it's hard to love this card when Omnixus is in the format.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
that's
you're like drawing an average of 25 cards a game, right? With Omnixus, because that's legit what happens every fucking time.
Yep.
Or they never resolve Omnixus, right? So it's like that's I don't know. Like the thing that I was like, okay, maybe is I was like, okay, it turns your Mox Amber online, right? Like,
yeah,
you can sack it to Calling the Weak, right? Like, I don't know. I just don't get it. But like, it feels like it does all the things Rograk does, but then also like turns Doomsday on as a win con. But Rograk Tevesh also turns Doomsday on as a win con. So, and I'm not saying like every deck that isn't X amount of deck is invalid, but like this one specifically is so lean and aggressive that like if there's a better lean aggressive deck, that this one doesn't really provide much of anything to the strategy, right? So like what's going on here then? You know?
That's I've never liked Grenzo, like ever.
Yeah.
I've always thought it was like, I mean, even back when Red had less tools, right? Like I just like I've never liked the deck. I've always thought that it's kind of a meme, if I'm being honest. And it just kind of like,
I mean, wasn't it like one of the last decks drafted in the MLC 2 years in a row? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah. It went undrafted year one, and then Kill Stars took it in the free agency is what he did.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm going to give it a big old fat 1.
Yeah, this is a 1 for me too. Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, people in the comments that like Grenzo. I don't like Grenzo. Deal with it. Next card. Let's look at Captain Sisay, but not that one. It's a 2/2 legendary human soldier that costs 2 generic, a green and a white. And you know it, you love it. It taps, search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. This is another pour one out for the homies. Rip Pension deck. Mm-hmm. This used to be one of the best decks in the format when Paradox Engine was around, and it was arguably one of the best things for the format because it kept the format very honest. But now that that's gone, like I know there are some people who still play this deck and do okay with it. But I don't know overall my feelings on Sisay other than it feels like it kind of sucks to be in green white without a Paradox Engine, right? Like
so like I like Sisay a lot actually.
Okay.
I think Sisay is one of the most underrated commanders of all time in the format, post Pension especially. I think all of the work Choirboy has done.
He's done a lot of work for what it's worth.
Yeah,
like,
to make this archetype viable or is like a significant amount. I played against him a lot. Every single time I played against him, like his deck was worthy of respect. It would always be the thing. It would always be online. I think there's even a version. So he plays more of like an Ashaya mid-range stacks version. I think there's even like a cleaner, not cleaner, say, but like a simpler hard stacks version of this deck that's also just like, okay, first turn I get Gaia's Cradle, second turn I get Elesh Norn, right? Which also his version can do, don't get me wrong. But like I think the deck is worthy of more respect than it's gotten historically. I think it's just kind of unattractive on a face level, and everyone does that sort of conversation of like, oh, just no Pension anymore, rip. And it's more difficult now, but I don't think that means it's bad per se. I think it actually has like a lot of potential. I'm going to throw like a 7 or an 8 on this one, to be honest. I think it's just it's super underexplored. The ability to once again get legendary lands is really huge.
That's really strong.
That's something people ignore a lot. I played it in a lot of my like green white stacks decks in the early times, right? And a lot of times I'm working with people who are, you know, using these like early green white commanders, right? Like things like Gaddock Teague or whatever, right? Like these, or like Sharn, right? And my conversations with those players is always like, why not play Sisay and tutor those pieces out as the game goes on, right? And then just have like a bunch of good stacks picks, you know, have that late game engine locked down, you know?
Yeah. I want to give it a better rating. I think I'm interested to see what it does now with like the One Ring. Because the One Ring, I feel like definitely adds a lot to this. But I think overall my like feelings on it are that green white's one of those things where I always ask this question of what's the draw to a color pairing, right?
Right.
And like, so blue
green
white's
in a bad spot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my thing, right? Is like blue white, what's the draw to it? Okay, well, I get a lot of control magic, and the big trade-off I'm making for that is I don't have a clean way of closing out the game. but I can be in control of the game most of it. Rakdos, you go super fast. Golgari, you have a lot of recursion and tutor effects. I could go through all of this, right?
Well, the biggest issue I'm seeing right now is, sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're fine.
Is that this is one of those decks that is a major, major sufferer of the Bowmaster problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't stress enough how much I fucking hate that card. Like, I am so tired of Bowmasters. Truly, I think it's so bad for the format, and it's just like decks like this one that, once again, like as you mentioned, keep the format honest, right?
Yep.
Like that prevent it from just being like, oh, hey, a bad player fed a Rhystic Study, and then the first player who untapped after them won because they got their Rhystic Study fed.
Yep.
Or that player went off and then the next person won because of that, right? And it's like that happens too much, just too freaking much. Like, I played Shorikai last weekend, and like the amount of times I was like, cool, the entire table needs a single counterspell with multiple people having 2 blue open, and no one had anything. And I was like, what in the fuck is going on? And it's because any sort of responsibility, any sort of interaction, stuff like that is just being disincentivized so aggressively. And I think Bowmasters is a huge part of it. And it's so frustrating because these decks help to balance the format. They help to keep decks honest. And it's so obnoxious that it's just something we have to deal with right now. Rant over.
No, I get it. I understand. No. It's interesting because I always feel like I'm a little sheltered from the Bowmasters thing because I play Tivit. So it's one of those things where
right. But yeah, that's exactly it, right? But you have to play decks like that to keep it. Like, if it didn't exist, this format would be all turbo decks.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, that's I give it a 5 personally. This isn't anything against Choirboy. I actually think Choirboy's done a lot of amazing work with this because I think before he really picked it up and kind of kept carrying the torch, it was not a good spot. But I think that, like you said, with the Bowmasters thing, but also kind of heading back to what I was getting at, is the particular draw to green-white right now is creature tutors. And like, I just, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, right? Or actually, I think you mentioned this when I was talking about play something different, like with Yisan, right? And you were just like, oh, just play Sisay. And it's like, yeah, Sisay Weatherlight Captain just does this and more. You know what I mean? And I understand you have to pay like 5 mana for it, and it's a different deck and it's a different style of deck, but it's one of those things where and this is one of the things I have with these older commanders, and it kind of sucks, but that these older commanders just feel outclassed these days. Where a lot of them just feel like they don't do enough. And this is one of those things where I feel like, listen, if this was in maybe one more color, let's fucking go. But at 2 colors, it's a hard sell. So I give it a 5.
Yeah, I think for me it's like a 6 or 7. But as I mentioned, like, Bowmaster's gone, then I start to like this deck a lot more.
Yeah,
it's just stupid orc.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing though, is, you mentioned, like Curse Totem, Creature Hate, and all that stuff is really heavy right now. So it's one of those things where it's just like, do I really want to play a deck that needs to tap to? So, speaking of decks that need to tap, next card on our list, Nin the Pain Artist. This is an old card.
This deck sucked when I started playing.
Yeah, but it's always been kind of fun because it's just bad enough, but it's just good enough to be interesting, but bad enough to be bad. Nin is a 1/1 Vidilkin wizard that costs a blue and a red, and has the tap ability where you pay X generic, a blue and a red, tap, and Nin deals X damage to target creature. That creature's controller draws X cards. So this was not a great deck before. Shock. It being a 1/1 makes it even worse. because Bowmasters and all of that stuff. But I don't have anything else after that. But
okay, so it's an Ice Crown Scepter outlet, but it's a bad Ice Crown Scepter outlet. It's a Dockside outlet, but it's a bad Dockside outlet. It's player removal technically if you get infinite mana, because you can either draw your deck or hit one of their creatures and make them draw their decks. It's got some silly BDSM art, and that's what makes people giddy. I don't know what you want. Like this deck was, once again, it was bad when I started playing, and I don't. It was fun and cute, and like the best thing about it is that it turns on Guardianship, deflecting SWAT, and Mox Amber.
Yeah.
Like, congrats, you're a bad Rogrek.
I mean, I think there is something to be. I think more of why I have this on the list is I think that these 2 mana commanders like this, well, this might not be the one. I think that going back and looking at more of these is worth your time.
Mana
because
is good.
Yeah. Like, I think there are a lot of 2 mana, 2 color commanders that could be potentially worth your time. This is not one of them, but this is more of my signpost. Hey, go back and check out some cards, because there are a lot of real quick commanders out there, and it's worth at least looking at.
Yeah, I can definitely agree behind that for sure.
Give it a big old fat. Can I give this a negative score? Is that okay?
I would be upset if someone showed up with this. So that's a 0, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a negative X, where X is the amount of damage that the Nin player decides it wants to do to itself. So yeah. So I'm gonna give it a minus X is my rating for it.
I'm gonna give it 1 disapproving look of, and then we'll just leave that there. That's fine.
Give the disappointed dad look.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta do a little more armful for that. Like, yeah, you shouldn't be playing in the pain artist in those tournaments there, kiddo. I told you too many times.
We're not mad. We're just disappointed.
I know you like the lady with the big bazongas and the fun sex instrument, but she's not for playing in cEDH. I've told you too many times.
Why did you give your character a little bit of like that Ben Affleck accent to it?
What? That was like Minnesota. Why did you get Ben Affleck?
Probably because you're from Boston.
My raw Boston energy just too much.
Oh, that's amazing. Listen, kid. Listen, guy.
Listen, dude. I can do the rest of the episode in a real high Boston accent if you want. In the pain artist. Oh, yeah. She'll fucking zap you real good, dude. I give a 10 out of 10 for those tits. Moving on.
Listen, if we're doing accents, I can fall back into the Midwest Southern, that sort of thing if we can.
Not gonna lie, Nin the Pain Artist gets me hard.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that, good sir, but I do know that Nin the Pain Artist sure is an interesting looking lady. I don't know that if I don't know if they would like her looks in my church, but sure is an interesting idea. I did find this next one. It was out in the creek. This one was the Gitrog Monster. It's a big old fucking frog. It scared the living shit out of me. It was a 6/6, cost 3 generic, a black and a green. And it had
how long are you going to keep up with this?
I was really going to keep going until you said something. So
I've said multiple things, please.
Well, until you said specifically something about it.
I see.
But yes, it has Death Touch at the beginning of your upkeep. Sacrifice the Gitrog Monster. Unless you sack a land, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And whenever one or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. Everybody's aware of this deck, familiar with this deck. This used to be a very strong deck in the format. And it's not. No.
It's not. That's what you got. It's not.
I think that we talked about draws to colors, right? With Sisay.
Yeah.
black green. So like the graveyard interaction is very like cool with what this deck. Like I from a completely honest standpoint, if you like dredge type decks, this is very compelling from that regard. The issue is it's not a dredge deck. It's just not. And people want to tell you it's a dredge deck, but it's really not. It's a creature combo deck. We talked about this before the show. And creature combo decks in black green that are not doing Hulk stuff, I'm a little sus of, because how like the way of closing the game for Gitrog is you need to call a judge over. And you need to make sure that they have read up on how this stuff works so that you can do it properly. And if you have a Chains of Mephistopheles out, it gets even more complicated. So I don't like this as a commander.
Okay. Yeah, I think the complicated aspect of the deck is not to be like undervalued, right? Like that is definitely a major downside for it. The upsides of it being that it's a creature combo deck and a very fast one. Definitely really cool. The other day I played an out of time on Gitrog and it was like out of the game, right? Yeah. Like it's just a deck that cannot operate without its commander for the most part. But it is a deck that still has like just so much potential to explode out of the gates, and it's a great.
It draws so many fucking cards. Like that is the one thing I will give it is it draws a buttload of cards.
It's a great I win second deck, right? Like that is the best part of the deck is that it has that ability, right? The thing is that it's just a deck that really struggles in the current metagame because its engine gets it going, right? But it's not going to be as efficient as other things that exist. Right. And it's great that you have all the creature tutors and stuff like that, but like those can only do you so much. I also think it is a deck that suffers from insular deck building, which is just Gitrog pilots play Gitrog and they only play Gitrog. They don't really play a lot of other stuff. And if there's, diverse Gitrog pilots out there, are you one of the people who are constantly working on the primer? I'm going to ask you that. And if you are, congratulations, you've proven me wrong. But like most of the time, everyone who plays Gitrog is just like huffing lines of Gitrog and doing nothing else, right? And it's just that. It is just Gitrog players, right? And I think that they could use a little bit of diversity in their understanding of the list, right? Mm-hmm. The Gitrog Monster is a very powerful card. The fact that it combos very easily is good for the list, right? Like your discard outlets draw you to your actual win condition being the land, right? And it's your deck more, right? But it's just a deck that like more times than not, I see someone land a Gitrog, sack all their lands, have Gitrog removed, and lose. And like that ain't it,
No, I mean, I completely agree with that. And I think my biggest like kind of feeling on it is that I said this before the show is I think Gitrog's biggest like biggest draw is that it draws a lot of cards, but it's also very good at filling your graveyard. And I feel like that when you're not in blue feels rough. I do think this is a card you can play in the 99 a lot more. I think that there are more decks that could use to again, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but there is so much of the fucking like format that has just not been explored. And I think Dredge is one of those parts in the format where people have just not looked and they have just been like, well, we can only do this. And it's like, okay, well, what else is there?
That's when it's definitely, I lean into the, I need to see it to get what you're going for here. You know what I mean? But I'm not ready to write it off.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with that. I think it definitely needs more exploring. But like, it's very easy it needs development, right? Like it's very easy to look at a plot of land and see, that's a plot of land until somebody puts a building there, right? And so it's one of those things where I think that there's more exploration to be done. I also think that the way Gitrog is winning now is very stuck in a I'm just going to say at best 2018 mindset. And
Yeah.
The
Yep, I agree.
The Turbo Gitrog list that I saw, that the one that I saw do well, did not seem to be doing that. So I don't know. That's I like Gitrog a lot as a card. Yeah. Like I very much like this card.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also
have to use the bathroom so
bad. You're good. That was Jazz by Night by Martin Landstrom and Gustav Lundgren. If you want to hear more from that, you can check them out on epidemicsound.com. I'm your host, Callahan, the Mind Sculptor. We're going to get back into some crazy opinions here with the funny guy himself, ComedIan MTG.
I like the part in the song where it goes click, click.
Oh, man. What do you give the Gitrog Monster as far as, rating goes?
It's a 6.9.
I'm going to give it a 420.
I don't know. Gitrog's fine. It's a 6, I think.
Yeah, I think a 6 is reasonable. From power perspective, though, the card's nuts.
It's nuts.
D's nuts.
Whoa,
Next commander on our list is Rashmi, Eternities Crafter. Wait, this is the wrong Callahan. It's supposed to be Lavinia.
God damn it.
It's a 2/3 elf druid that costs 2 generic, a green and a blue.
It also does not have an image on the screen yet.
No. Let me just fix that slide real quick. There we go.
Yep. Oh, look, Rashmi.
Oh, Rashmi. I thought it's supposed to be Lavinia, all those things. It says whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with lesser mana value. If you don't cast it, put it into your hand. Which is interesting. It's very specifically not a draw, which is actually very good.
Yeah. In this world of bows and masters.
In a world filled with Sauron's hatred. His bowmasters fight and follow people throughout the lands of Middle Earth. I had to think about what that was called for a second. What do you think about Rashmi?
It's got a case of Azorius syndrome if I ever seen one.
But wait, it's green.
For those who don't know, the term I'm coining in this moment is Azorius syndrome is the idea that there can be an extremely powerful commander with a game warping effect and just no way to fucking end the game. Azorius syndrome. Yeah.
My lady.
Yeah.
Lavinia wouldn't know anything about that.
Like, people used to literally try to win with Isochron Scepter until Blue Sun Zenith. Like, come on. That can't be it.
Yeah.
The best list I've seen to date for Rashmi has been a Hermit Druid and Oracle Paradigm Shift deck. That's been like the highest performing Rashmi I've seen in 7 million years. Like, it's just it's been so long since this deck has been a real thing, and that's what we got for you. We got Paradigm Shift.
Here's my issue with it. Is because I actually like the effect and what it does, and I think it's, like, from a control standpoint, great. The issue is just play Nimrus.
Yeah.
Like, Nimrus does basically this, and it also is at Flash, is in better colors, and has easy win cons. Like, there we go. There's those are my thoughts.
That sums it up for sure. I think that sums it up. I don't think there's anything that's been added recently that would change our perspective on these things. I think it's just, unfortunately, that's it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I want to like this card a lot, but
it's very powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
There's a world where maybe, hear me out, we do some flash stuff. And I know that sounds very base level, right? But like, we've got some more effects nowadays. We can maybe do some storming.
Norman.
See, maybe we cast a Liberator. And then on someone else's turn, maybe we cast a Mana Crypt. Then we cast another artifact. Maybe we see what happens,
Mana Crypt.
It's probably not going to be anything.
Yeah. But it might be something.
It's probably not.
But it might be.
Could be a nursery.
Could be an Agila card. I give this a 1. Sorry, Cal. If it would make you feel,
it's good enough that it gets like a 3 or a 4.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just not ready to want it.
I'll give it a 2. Fair enough. I'll give it a 2.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's how you move the people.
That's how you move. Said people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I heard something else.
Not pee hole.
Let's look at the next card. Speaking of Liberator.
Pee hole.
Oh, yeah. Well, Zur the Enchanter. I want to point out before I read what this does, I have used the original copy of all of the cards so far in this, and I've not used my preferred like copies and artworks because we're doing the Back to the Future episode. So we're doing all the old artworks and all the old.
I'm sorry. I think old Zur is best Zur.
What?
Like, he's literally tearing his own arm off. This is fucking rad as metal. Sorry. Old Zur is best Zur. That man is psychotic beyond all belief.
I like the new Zur more. It's done by the same. It's done by the same guy who does the Thrasios art, Jason Rainville.
Don't get me wrong. The new Zur is cool. This Zur is iconic. This is like indescribably insane art. Like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
But I have this issue where Jason, what's the artist on this one? Excuse me, Jasu Hernes. Great art. And guess what? It also is the same artist who did Thrasios. So anyhow, Zur the Enchanter, if you're unfamiliar with it, where you been? It costs a generic, a white, blue, black. Is a human wizard with flying. It's a 1/4 that says whenever Zur attacks, you may search your library for an enchantment card with mana value 3 or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So if you remember back in the day, you used to win by getting Necropotence on whatever turn Turbo Zur happened, and then you played what was it called? Shimmermere. It was called Shimmer Zur. And that was a thing. What are your thoughts? Yes. Yeah, that is a magic card. That is a born upon.
That should be enough. Yeah.
So you're a believer.
I'm a believer for sure.
You're a believer in this deck.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah. No, I think Zur is okay. So like it's an Esper, right? So there's only so bad it can be, right? On a floor level, right? I'm sort of trusting in the word of Drake Sasser, which has steered me wrong before. Do not get me wrong. But Drake is very much convinced that this deck is real nowadays and that it has a lot of potential. And I would like to see that. Now, do I know what Drake is doing? No. Do I trust that it's at least marginally acceptable? Yes. It's one of those decks that I think, got a lot of new pieces, born upon a win, as you saw me being punchy there and lifting up the screen. It's like a very real card.
Right.
And answers a lot of the problems Zur has, which is like actually
winning
not
the game.
Shitty ways to win an instant speed, right? Is it the best thing to be doing? I don't know. I genuinely don't. I think it has a lot of potential though, and that's pretty cool that that's a new thing, right? So
I mean, we did that whole Zur episode, right, where we like built different builds of Zur. I definitely like Zur a lot. I think it has a lot of potential. And
I was not on that one.
You
I think it
weren't
was
on
actually
that
one of
one.
the only Brewers Corners that I was not on.
Yeah. But like Zur, I think has a lot of potential. And we said this on the show before, but Zur has this toolbox effect that you also just don't really get in these colors. Athena, what are you doing next to my power cords? I'd rather you not be down there. But like that's kind of where I land with it, where it has a lot of good toolboxy stuff going on. Every time a new enchantment in these colors is printed, it gets a little bit better. It's weird because it feels like a deck that wants to play Out of Time, but it probably doesn't, because that feels like it's bad. I think about
bears. That. That's another sentiment with this card that lives in my head rent free.
Yeah,
which is like, oh man, how many times has Zur got to suicide itself for an Out of Time?
Yeah, like it's one of those things where I think we're in a format where commanders are too good to not have out. And Zur is absolutely very good. And the fact that it's an attacks trigger and not a damage trigger is a huge thing in its favor. But again, like, it's just one of those things where, okay, but how are you winning the game? How are we doing this effectively? I think a lot of the flash stuff has given it a good way to go. I really liked the idea of playing like Helia Ballista in this, because it goes and tutors up half of that. I think that's a neat idea. This is not a turbo Adnons list, guys. Like, it's just not. I don't even know that it's a turbo Necro deck, if I'm being honest. But I like it a lot. It's a very solid deck. I give it a big old fat 7.
I think it has a lot of potential. I think it's definitely an 8 or a 9. I think like there's a lot of stuff there right now. There's a lot of new tech it's been given. And I just think a lot of people are sort of just letting it rest and not actually trying it. Or if they're trying it, they're maybe trying to go kind of cute with it as opposed to efficient. Right.
Yeah. I think, I definitely agree with you on that for sure. And I think that's an interesting thing when you talk about and why I like doing this type of episode is when you talk about new commander, we talk about new commanders a lot on this channel, right? And so we often, a lot of people are really looking at new stuff all the time. And, kind of forgetting some of these old strategies that are still good, right? So Zur definitely worth your attention and your time. Check it out next week on the next episode of the Miscast. I don't know. Next card, Marith, Will of the Wild. It costs a red, green, and white. It's a 0/0. That is an elemental beast, and when it enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. And then it has a ability that where you pay X, remove X +1/+1 counters from it, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature. X can't be 0. Or Marath deals X damage to any target. X can't be 0. Or create an XX green elemental creature token. X can't be 0. Hey, did you know X can't be 0? So this is a deck that I know Kai has played a lot with, Fervent Alchemist, and has had reasonable success with. What is your thoughts on Marith?
Cal, can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I fucking hate this card.
Okay, so why do you hate it?
Yeah. So the thing is, it sucks. It's a long line of cards that are just bad Dawnwaker Thrasios is that people will bring up every once in a while and they'll be like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to play blue and also do this and have a cleaner outlet and have blue. And I know I'm offending people. I think Kai was the first person to make me respect the deck, which is, shout out to Kai. Oop. I completely lost your audio there.
I hit the mute button with my glasses. Nice. But Sam, I'm sorry, I don't like the deck. I think it's just play Rocco, baby. Just play Rocco. Or play Minsk, or play any of the other. If you want to get real spicy, play Atla Polani.
No, well, hey, no, let's not. Hey, for all you Morath players out there, way better than Atla Polani. You've done it. Congratulations.
I'm not saying it's Atla Polani's better, but if you're going for the spicy angle, you can get spicier.
It's just the fact that you would take the time on our podcast to suggest that Levelani. I'm just disappointed. It's just like, yeah, hey, you know how Gitrog is good and also has non-deterministic loops? What if, hear me out, it was bad and had non-deterministic loops? And I know what you're thinking. What sort of genius would do a thing like that? In which your whole deck's an egg, you know what I mean? Your whole deck's an egg. It's great.
Listen, we got to go back to where the dinosaurs are. If we go back to where the dinosaurs are, we'll solve the format. We'll solve the format. And that'll be when we fix the reign of Bowmasters will be over. We have to go back and start it from the very beginning.
Oh, geez, Cal.
my Doc Brown really is a little bit closer to Rick than it is to Doc Brown.
I mean, well, the show was originally called Doc and Marty.
Yeah,
so.
I'm aware. Really, Ian, do you want to tell me more about how Rick and Morty is based on those characters? Because I wasn't aware.
Oh, geez, Cal, it seems like maybe you're letting on the sarcasm a little heavy-handed.
Morath is bad. Don't play Morath. Sorry, guys.
It's like you could play it. You know what I mean? Like that's where I end with my compliments.
You can play it. I mean, you can play anything.
Okay,
if you can play Nin the Pain Artist, but I don't think you should.
Yeah. I think Morath's biggest upside is genuinely the fact that you can play Arena Rector, shoot it twice, and do the Vivian line.
You can do that in Minsk with one less thing.
Yeah, I'm aware, Cal. I get it. I'm saying that's the biggest thing I can give it. Okay.
Listen.
Well, no, okay, but like for real though, like it's an outlet and it has that, right? Whereas Minsk is like a better version of that. There are better outlets that exist, right? But like that is my one pull of the deck is that it has the Vivian pod lines and it has Birthing Pod and it's also an infinite mana outlet. You know what I mean?
Sure. That makes sense.
That's all I got for you.
And, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Play Minsk.
Still giving it like a 4.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give it a remove as many counters as you feel is necessary to make this a good deck. That is my opinion. But baby, listen, Morty, it's time. We gotta go. It's time for Mardu Summer, Morty. Mardu Summer, Morty.
Yes, that's what they meant with Mardu Summer.
Alesha, who smiles at death, is a 3/2. 2 colorless or 2 generic and a red human warrior, could be an Agila card. It's first strike and says whenever Alesha attacks, you may pay a 2 black-white hybrid. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. This used to be a stack stack. This used to be a thing that people played.
Yes. I am aware of this.
Yeah.
And I am searching through my mind, my mental palace, for sort of a reason.
Are you going through? So here's the question that I need to know. When you visualize you going through the mental palace, are you going through it like are you in a big library, or is it more like pull out and you have the little gotta go through all the little cards?
I imagine I'm in like a very loose sort of like a war battlefield, right? Sort of like Alesha's art's depicted.
Okay.
And I'm picking up the corpse of a 2 or less power creature and looking at it and going, "Are you worth it?" And then it sort of looks back at me like, and I'm like, "Nope." And then I throw it back down into the grave. I pick up another one and I go, "How about you?" And he's like, "Oh, no, all right." And then I do that infinitely because I don't see a reason to play this card. The premier cards of the format that cost 2 or less are either insanely easy to cheat in, vis-a-vis Kiki-Jiki, right? Or they cost 2 anyways, like Dockside. I love that you can entomb a creature and then bring it back. But you can also Vampiric Tutor or Imperial Seal or Demonic Tutor for the same creature because you're in black. Yep. And apart from Unmarked Grave and Entomb, like that's really it for efficient graveyard tutors. Some would argue Gamble, but that's half a meme.
There's Buried Alive.
Oh, there's also Buried Alive, of course, Callahan. Thank you.
Just Dark Ritual into it. It's fine.
Oh, no, I almost had the arrogance to say, technically speaking, Buried Alive would get you your combo. That would be good. But no, Buried Alive, if you attack with Lesha, can allow you to reanimate a Kiki-Jiki combo with one of them tapped and attacking and not actually get you the combo. So please forgive my arrogance because you will already be mid-combat and therefore unable to actually do anything with it. So no, there's literally... I picked up the last corpse. It looked at me like, I got 2 power. I'm like, all right, go back to bed, sweetheart. And that's, yeah, literally. Alesha's cool. It's just not, it's not it. It's not it.
Yeah. I don't know. There might be something there. I don't know what it is, but there might be.
Yeah. All right. So you got a 2 for me.
You got it's definitely a 2 for me.
I feel like this episode we chose what I would consider maybe looser commanders to really put our prayers on. I feel like last episode we got really jazzed about some of the cards we're talking about. This one I feel like we're a bunch of like jaded boomers like, what the hell? Why are we even looking at this card nowadays?
Back in my day. I mean, there are some positives to it. I mean, you could cast off a jeweled okay. Full sincerity. There are good things about this card. There are attractive things about this card. But I do think that there are better things that you could potentially be doing. With that being said, again, I do think there's a lot of unexplored space in this like format, and I think that this is potentially something that you could explore more. What that looks like, I don't know, but I mean, like it is undeniably a good effect. So it is limited. But reanimating something for 2 mana with a condition is not bad.
Yeah.
I think that it's a 2, but I would be willing to give it a 5 if somebody showed me a really compelling build. Kind of how I feel about it. Let's move on to the other. There are a lot of Fate Reforged ones in this review.
Hell yeah.
Tasigur, the Golden Fang. Sinestra, this one's for you, baby.
Sing me a song, you're the banana man.
It's a 4/5 that costs 5 generic and a black, has Delve, and has the activated ability of 2 generic and then 2 green-blue hybrid mana. You mill 2 cards, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. Ian.
It's that time in the mood for a banana, and everyone's feeling.
I wanted to play Thrasios, but didn't want to play Tavesh or Tormod or any of the other black partners, so I just played Tasigur. Why would I want to play Tymna every day?
Oh my god, Gal.
Listen, you started singing. Listen, Billy Joel is unironically my favorite artist of all time, so this is on you. So
I guess I should have known
that. But yeah, so Tasigur is okay. Full sincerity, I actually do think Tasigur Neoform is like a cool thing. You know, that is a thing that I am very into.
Yes,
I also think Sultai is just
where I land on it.
Yeah,
too.
I also think
I like. Yeah, no, is what we're saying.
I was just gonna say I think Sultai is like super underexplored right now.
I think Sultai is appropriately explored right now. I think it's just in such a bad spot. Like, it doesn't even do green well, right? Like, you don't even have an ignoble or a noble hierarch. Like, that sucks so bad.
My thing is with green, and I just kind of talked about this earlier, is green has a lot of good cards in it. And I think what we need to do is maybe change what we think green does a little bit and maybe go hunting for some new ways to approach green.
Well, I think Neoform is that way, right?
Sure,
Like I think that's the reason to play Tasigur is like unequivocally like the idea that your Tasigur is not a Tasigur. It is an outlet for when it becomes your Hullbreaker Horror, right? Like that is the reason to play Tasigur, in my opinion. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Like it's just, you convert this card into a better card, period. And it's cool because it's not that hard to be able to convert your graveyard into a Tasigur very early. Delve is not a hard thing to fuel, right? The game goes on, naturally progresses. You're playing your Lotus Petals, you're playing your LEDs sometimes, depending on the build, right? Like you're doing stuff in a way that is going to fill your graveyard so that you can cast Tasigur, right? And then when you get Tasigur down, the activated ability is not the sexiest. I'm not going to lie. Like it could use a little TLC. And it sucks that you can't even win when there's a rest in peace. Like that part is pretty rough. But I think, you know, and while I was thinking about things, I was like, okay, but why play this over Thrasios Dargo, right? And the answer is you have the consistency of black, right? You lose the explosiveness of red, right? You lose that Dargo, you lose your Breach, you lose your Dockside, which are big fucking hits. Like, let's be real clear about that. Those are big hits. But what you gain is the ability to tutor whatever you want whenever you want it.
And you get Thoracle Consult, which is, I cannot begin to stress, is huge. It's huge.
I mean, I think Tassigur's fine. I think it does the thing well. I think, you know, I saw it on this list today and I was like, maybe I'll take another look at it again, right? It's like, it does what it does very efficiently, right? So you play your Birthing Pod, Neoform, Eldritch Evolution, and you turn Tasigur into something very strong. Preferably a Hullbreaker Horror, but there are other options.
There's Nezahal. There's all sorts of stuff you can put in and make turn.
It's also like, you know, it's a Nas deck that doesn't win with Breach, but you can still play Icecrown Scepter, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world, right? It's like obviously not everyone's favorite thing to be doing at the current time, right? But like I think it's still acceptable by many,
absolutely
many standards. Especially post Nas, right? Like it's the cleanest way without red to win post Nas, apart from like Thoracle itself, right? But like even then you get color choked a lot. So like 4 colorless mana is not hard to achieve.
I basically am at this point, and I'm kind of exploring this with Sidisi. I might try it, moving that to Muldrotha instead. But like a lot of my like theory crafting right now has been, what does green do really well and how do I play to that? And I think, and not just specifically what does green do really well, but what does green do? What does it do in this format really well? And I think playing to that is definitely something that I think is worth doing. I think there's a lot of really good abilities in there. I think it's best when paired with black, if I'm being completely honest. I think green really needs the black to balance it out. But overall, I think that I've said this, I've been on record for several years saying that this could be an S tier commander. I don't know that I think it's an S tier commander now. But I also think that it's super strong. And like, I really love this card and think that it is a very good card that should probably be explored more in some more diverse ways. I think it suffers some of the Gitrog issue, if I'm being honest, where the people who, the people who test Tasigur are the people who play Tasigur, and they're the only people who take looks at it. But
that seems fair.
I give it a solid 7. So.
Yeah, I think it's an 8. I think it's underplayed for how strong.
That's fair.
There was a very long time before Hullbreaker Horror came out where I was like, "There's literally no reason to ever play Tasigur," and that's not the case anymore. Yeah. So, check it out.
Check it out on your next one. Carador, Ghost Chieftain. Carador costs 1 less for. Yeah, I'm not even going to read what the card does. If you're a fan of the show and you're a Spotify listener, I'm sorry. Just look up what Carador Ghost Chieftain does. This card's not very good. There's so many other good options. Just play one of the better ones.
Imagine replacing white in Carador and getting blue and playing Muldrotha. Whoa. Yeah, I don't know. Carador is just like, we have Tymna Halana now. Why would you ever just fuck with this card?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. It like sucks to say it, but like, no, this is the epitome of a 0 for me as well.
You don't think that Boonweaver is coming back?
Boonweaver can come back in Tymna Halana. That's the problem. Is that Boonweaver in this boomer shit can still be in a better deck that has Tymna.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks that I have to say stuff like that. That's just where we're
at. Play black, white, and you don't have that problem. It's fine. Last card. Breya Ethereum Shaper. We talked about Yidris last week. We're talking about it's Yidris's sister. It's 4/4 human that costs Sans green, and whenever it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Has the activate ability that costs 2 generic, and you sacrifice 2 artifacts. Choose one. Breya deals 3 damage to target player or planeswalker, or target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn, or you gain 5 life. That's actually just top 16. What was it, Columbus?
Yeah, so not only did top 16 Columbus, it's just top 16 last weekend.
Yeah.
And so by the time you're hearing this, it will be Monday. The weekend prior, in top 16, a Chaos tournament. Now, if you're like me, I have been saying for the past several weeks, because people started playing Breya again, I've been like, why the fuck are people playing Breya? Right? It's just worse than Kenrith in every way. Right? That was my argument. It is like a bad Kenrith that loses to many more things that Kenrith loses to. Until I saw this stupid list from the Chaos tournament, and I was like, God damn it, they figured out a reason to play a Breya. And the reason is that you can play Liberator and you can play Shimmermere and you can win on top of people. And I was like, fuck, now I have a reason to play Breya. And I don't want a reason to play Breya, god damn it.
I have a really pretty Breya. I want a reason to play Breya. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I guess I do have that secret layer Breya too. But like, so the idea is, right, you have your Isochron Scepter combos, you have Born Upon the Wind, and you have Liberator and Shimmermere. And not only do you have Isochron Scepter, but you have Auriok Bomberman combos, right? So with those combos, you can, at some point, your opponents are trying to pop off, right? Yeah, this is the...
I just need to acknowledge the name of the deck is We Broke Necropotence, and I love it.
Yes, it is. I believe it is very punchy on purpose. But the idea is you can go, okay, in response to what you're doing, I'm going to say, for example, you have one of those kooky little Rogsai pilots who have resolved or they're about to resolve an Underworld Breach. You look around the table and go, oh no, guys, do we not have anything? And they're like, no, I can't counter it. You go, all right. Well, in response to that Underworld Breach, I'm going to flash in this Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, of course. And then I'm also going to flash in a Mana Rock, and here is an Isochron Scepter, and I'll put a Dramatic Reversal on it. Oh, cool, I'll make infinite mana, and then, oh, hey, look, my commander, Breya. Here, I'll flash her in and kill you in response by casting her over and over again. And that's just something you can do. And you can do the same thing with Bomberman, right? You have your salvagers out, and then you pass the turn, and then you're like, just kidding. Flash in 3 mana, crack that LED, boom, do the combo, put it back in my hand, flash it in, put it back in my hand, flash it in, make infinite mana, play Brea, win the
flash
game.
it in, flash it in.
Perfect. Thank you, Gal.
You're welcome. I got your back, Jack. Yeah, that's hot. Oh, it's playing Oswald in the 99. Oh, you can. Huh. Interesting.
You can turn your Soul Ring into an Isochron Scepter.
Well, I was also thinking.
That was a joke.
Well, I guess you can't turn Brea into a. Because what is it? Bolas' Citadel costs 6, or is it 5?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 6. Okay. I was like, man, that'd be.
You can turn your Brea into a Paradox Engine.
You could turn your Liberator into a One Ring, which is a thing.
Good.
Yes. I feel like the One Ring should absolutely be in this deck, but
yeah,
I don't know. I like this a lot. This is really cool.
Yeah. I'm upset that it's very real.
I'm not. I love it.
It's cool. I'm just like, I kind of thought Brea would die, but guess Brea's not dead. So here we are.
No death, only life.
Yeah. The worst part is I now am legally obligated to give it a 10.
Why? Because it placed in this event?
No, because it's a cool way to play the deck. And I've been looking for a list like this for a while and I hate it.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow. Tatiova Benthic Druid won Chaos. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, Wrath. Good job. Brea looks cool. I'm into it. Yeah. That's what I got. I'm gonna give it a 9. I think that Brea is still very good. I think I've said this before, where I think like Brea is probably more of the Storm Commander than Tymna Kraum. I think I've said that.
Well, yeah, because you can't grind with Brea. You can grind with Tymna Kraum.
And so it's like the people who are playing Tymna Kraum like it's a Turbo Naz should probably be playing Brea instead.
I think they should play
Will
and 11 or
Will and Lucas. Yeah. Baby Blue Farm.
Baby Blue Farm.
So that's it. Any more thoughts before we leave? What are your thoughts on this whole endeavor that we've done over the past week?
You know, I will say I liked part 1 a little bit more. I don't know if it's because maybe there were a little too many cards on part 2 where I was like, no, I'm glad they're dead for a reason.
The sequels are never as good.
The sequels are never as good.
Never as good.
But I'm definitely curious. And also, hey, if you're out there in the audience and you're like, I can't believe they said that thing about the commander that I love truly, feel free to leave a comment down below and tell Cal off. How dare they?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. If you want to leave any complaints, feel free to go over to @Catan on Twitter and leave all complaints there.
Yes, that's my Twitter. For sure. 100%.
Yes. @Catan.
Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. All right, Marty.
Oh, yeah, Doc, what's up?
Listen.
Yeah.
We went back in time and
we went to the
past. But we're recording this in the past.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now we are gonna go to when the audience hears it, which is the present.
Yes.
So we've got to go back.
We've got to go back to the present, Marty.
Marty. More.
Great Scott.
Well, Dr. Rick, I did G Willikers.
I can't. Okay, the tinfoil got caught in my glasses. Oh my goodness. Yep. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for being fans, checking everything out. Ian is a coach. Do your shill, Ian.
Yeah. Hey everybody. My name is Ian from the YouTube channel ComedIan MTG.
Or you can call him Marty.
Or you can call me Marty or
Marty McFly.
You can find me over at ComedIan MTG at youtube.com or on Twitter with the same name. You can also find me for cEDH coaching. Hit me up at ComedIanMTG@gmail.com, Twitter or Discord for any of those things. We're doing not only one-on-one coaching, which is an individual coaching session nowadays, but we're also doing gameplay coaching, where you play games, we go over the plays that happen, all of that stuff. It's all really cool and really good for stepping up to the next level of cEDH play. I can still hold the title of most wins with diverse commanders in the past 2 years. So if you want coaching by someone with that title, you should come find me.
He's pretty good. He's my co-host for a reason, not just because he's funny and good looking, but also because he's good.
Jeez.
Well, thank you, intrepid traveler, for joining us for the Mind Sculptors. If you would like to support us on Patreon to hear more entertaining comments like this, please do so, and you'll have your name in the credits.
Why are you talking like a Nigel Thornberry?
I was kind of trying to do the voice from earlier, but I think it's a little more nasally.
It's definitely, you've definitely given me some Nigel Thornberry vibes there.
Yes. This has been the Mind Sculptors, and if you hit the like button and subscribe, it will make us very happy indeed.
Don't forget to I can't do that voice. Oh, dang it. I got this one.
Make sure you smash that like button, give it a good whack.
Yeah, if you want to come on down, you want to hit that big old like button, we'd really appreciate that. It'd be real swell of you.
Darn
tootin'.
All right.
My name's Cal. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
I am also here. Goodbye.
That I'm trying to keep, yeah. All these memories bittersweet, yeah. Gotta move, can't stay here no more. 여기 계속 있다가 나만 손에 가대. 'Cause we can't keep making these rain clouds stay overhead. Don't wanna keep this going. Can't fix what's already broken. 생각을 돌이켜봐도 혼자 되뇌어봐도